The hum of the computer screens filled the dimly lit lab of the Stellar Research Institute, a steady rhythm that accompanied my heartbeat as I leaned closer to the monitor. The data streaming in from the Nova and Celestia binary star system had taken an unexpected turn. For weeks, I had been observing peculiar energy fluctuations that seemed to defy the laws of physics as we understood them. Pulses of light danced across the screen, flickering with an intensity that felt almost deliberate. "Emily, you've got to see this," I called out, excitement bubbling in my chest. My colleague, Dr. Jason Reed, looked up from his own workstation, where he had been engrossed in a pile of data that seemed mundane in comparison. "What is it now?" he asked, his tone skeptical yet tinged with curiosity. I gestured for him to join me, my fingers flying across the keyboard to pull up the latest graphs. "Look at these energy levels. They're not random, there's a pattern. It's like they're trying to communicate with us." Jason squinted at the screen, his brow furrowing. "Emily, this could just be background radiation. You know how many variables we have to account for in astrophysics. It's easy to get lost in anomalies." "Background radiation doesn't exhibit this kind of rhythmic pulse," I argued, leaning back in my chair to assess his expression. "This is something different. I can feel it." He crossed his arms, a familiar gesture that signaled his skepticism. "Feelings don't belong in science, Emily. We need data, and right now, all I see are fluctuations that could easily be explained away." I took a deep breath, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Data is important, but intuition is what drives discovery. If we dismiss this, we risk losing an opportunity to understand something monumental. "Fine," he replied, rolling his eyes. "Let's see what the board says. But I'm telling you, if this is just a wild goose chase, it's going to reflect poorly on you." With a determined nod, I began preparing my presentation. The following day, I stood in front of the board, my heart racing as I laid out my findings. "This is not just an anomaly, it's a potential communication from the binary stars," I emphasized, gesturing to the graphs behind me. "The energy pulses align with patterns that suggest intent. We could be on the brink of understanding something beyond our comprehension." As I spoke, Jason sat among the board members, arms crossed and face impassive. I could see the glimmer of skepticism in his eyes, and it only fueled my resolve. "Dr. Hart," one of the board members interrupted, "can you provide evidence that this is not simply a fluke?" "Of course," I replied, swallowing hard. "We can run further analyses and compare the data with historical patterns. But I believe we owe it to ourselves to investigate these signals. They could be a warning, a message from something far more advanced than us." When the meeting concluded, I stepped out of the conference room, feeling a mix of elation and dread. I had made my case, but Jason's reaction lingered in my mind. That night, back in my lab, I sat alone, replaying the day's events. I ran my fingers through my hair, staring at the screen filled with data. Suddenly, my personal device chimed, cutting through the silence. I glanced down, my heart skipping a beat as I noticed the message was encoded in the same frequency as the energy pulses from Nova and Celestia. "What the?" I whispered, my fingers trembling as I opened the message. The text was cryptic, a series of numbers and symbols that seemed to pulsate with energy. I felt a jolt of determination surge through me. This was it. This was my chance to prove Jason wrong, to validate my instincts. I quickly pulled up the data again, comparing the message with the fluctuations I had recorded. "There's got to be a connection," I muttered to myself, excitement coursing through my veins. As I worked late into the night, I felt a sense of purpose solidifying within me. I was no longer just an observer, I was on the brink of something monumental, something that could change our understanding of the cosmos. But little did I know, the journey ahead would challenge everything I believed about communication, existence, and the very fabric of reality itself. I gathered my team in the dimly lit conference room, the glow of computer screens casting an eerie light on our faces. Max, my loyal assistant, was already seated, tapping nervously at his keyboard as he prepared to analyze the latest data. I could feel the weight of anticipation hanging in the air like a thick fog. "Okay, everyone," I said, trying to inject some enthusiasm into the atmosphere. "Let's dive into the energy patterns from Nova and Celestia. There's something extraordinary here, and I'm convinced we're on the brink of a breakthrough." Max looked up, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Emily, I've been reviewing the data from the last few days, and there's a rhythmic sequence emerging. It's almost like a communication protocol." His eyes sparkled with excitement, and I felt a rush of hope. That's exactly what I was thinking, I replied, my voice rising with enthusiasm. If we can decode this sequence, we might understand what the stars are trying to tell us. As the team gathered around the table, I noticed the skepticism in some of their eyes, particularly from Dr. Jason Reed, who had always been dismissive of my theories. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Emily, he said with a hint of condescension. We could be looking at random fluctuations. There are other explanations for this. I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to snap back. Jason, you have to consider the possibility that this is more than just noise. If the stars are communicating, we owe it to science to explore it. Maybe we should take a break, Jason suggested, but I could hear the underlying doubt in his voice. No, we can't give up now, I insisted, feeling the weight of the universe pressing down on me. We're so close. Suddenly, an idea struck me like a lightning bolt. What if we respond to them? I blurted out, turning to face the team. What if we send a pulse back? Jason blinked, caught off guard. You think that's a good idea? We don't even know if they'll respond. Exactly. But what if they do? If they're trying to communicate, then we have to try. My mind was racing, fueled by desperation and hope. Max looked between us, his brow furrowed. It's risky, but it might be the only way to establish a connection. I nodded, feeling a surge of adrenaline. Let's do it. Set up a transmission sequence. I'll calculate the frequency to match their pulses. As I worked feverishly to set up the transmission, I could feel Jason's skepticism lingering in the air. This could backfire, Emily, he warned, his voice low. Or it could be our only chance to save our solar system. I shot back, my voice rising. We can't afford to be passive. We need to act. Moments later, I stood before the control panel, my finger hovering over the button. Here goes nothing, I muttered, steeling my resolve. On my mark 3, 2, 1, send. The lab fell silent, the only sound the soft whir of machines as we awaited a response. My heart pounded in my chest, a mixture of fear and anticipation. Had I made a grave mistake? Would the stars even care about our message? Did it work? Max asked breathlessly, his eyes glued to the screens. I didn't have an answer, but deep down, I felt a shift in the atmosphere, a tingling sensation that coursed through my veins. Whatever was happening out there, I knew we were on the precipice of something monumental. The fate of our world hung in the balance, and I could only hope that the stars were listening. As the energy pulses from Nova and Celestia surged through our equipment, I felt a rush of exhilaration mixed with nervousness. My heart raced as I stared at the screen, watching the complex patterns unfold like a cosmic tapestry. Jason stood beside me, his expression a blend of skepticism and awe. Are you sure this is a response? He asked, his brows furrowed. It could just be more background noise. Background noise doesn't have this level of complexity, I replied, my fingers flying over the keyboard as I attempted to stabilize the data stream. Look at this sequence. It's not random. It's a deliberate pattern. Max leaned in closer, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Emily might be onto something, Jason. If these pulses are indeed a form of communication, we could be on the brink of discovering something monumental. Jason crossed his arms, his posture defensive. I still think we need more data before jumping to any conclusions. We can't afford to make mistakes based on assumptions. But what if we don't have time? I shot back, frustration creeping into my voice. If these stars are indeed warning us about the black hole, we need to figure this out now. Before Jason could respond, the screen flickered, and a new wave of energy hit us, more intense than before. My breath caught in my throat as I processed the incoming data. Look at this, I exclaimed, pointing at the screen. It's almost like they're trying to tell us something specific. It's a message. Jason leaned in, his skepticism wavering as he began to analyze the waveform. This is incredible, he murmured, almost to himself. I could sense the shift in his demeanor, the gears turning in his mind. If this is a warning, we need to decode it immediately. We worked in tandem, the tension in the room palpable. The energy waves danced across the screen, shifting and pulsating in a rhythm that seemed to resonate with the very core of my being. Hours blurred into minutes as we immersed ourselves in the task, our world narrowing down to the data before us. Suddenly, the lab door swung open, and a figure stepped inside, interrupting our focus. My pulse quickened as I took in the unexpected sight. A tall individual dressed in a sleek, unusual outfit. Their presence radiated an aura of urgency. "I'm here to help," the stranger announced, their voice smooth yet commanding. "Who are you?" Jason demanded, stepping forward with an air of authority. "This is a restricted area." "I'm Orion," the figure replied, unperturbed. "And I come from the future. I was sent here to assist you in averting a disaster that will destroy your solar system." I exchanged glances with Jason and Max, disbelief washing over us like a tidal wave. "A time traveler? This is absurd." Jason scoffed, but I felt an inexplicable pull toward Orion, as if the very fabric of our reality had shifted. "Fine," he replied, crossing his arms defiantly. "But I won't support wild theories without substantial evidence. Show me the data." I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I needed his cooperation. There was too much at stake. "Let's start by analyzing the sequences together. If we can identify a pattern, it may lead us to something significant." We spent the next few hours poring over graphs and spectrograms, my heart racing as the rhythmic pulses began to form coherent sequences. "Look at this!" Max exclaimed, pointing at a series of peaks and troughs on the screen. "These pulses are not just random. They're repeating, almost like a heartbeat." My pulse quickened in response. Yes, this could be a coded message. We need to run a Fourier analysis to see if we can extract any meaningful data from it. As the hours slipped away, I could feel the tension in the room thickening. Jason remained skeptical, occasionally tossing out snide remarks that only fueled my determination. "You know, Emily, chasing these cosmic fantasies won't earn you any accolades in the scientific community," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Maybe, but I'd rather chase truth than hide behind what's comfortable," I shot back, my frustration boiling over. "If we ignore this, we risk missing something monumental." Eventually, we reached a breakthrough. The data revealed a distinct pattern, one that mirrored the structure of known communication protocols used by humans. "This isn't just noise. It's a language," I said, my voice quaking with excitement. "We need to figure out what it's saying." Just then, the room filled with the sound of a sharp beep from the computer. The screen flashed with new data, and I leaned in closer. My heart sank as I read the decoded message, a warning about a massive black hole heading directly toward our star system. "Everyone, this is urgent," I exclaimed, my mind racing. "We need to present this to Jason immediately. This is not just a cosmic anomaly, it's a genuine threat." Max's face paled as he processed the implications. "What if he still doesn't believe us?" he asked hesitantly. "Then we'll have to make him believe," I replied, steeling my resolve. "We can't afford to be dismissed this time." As I stormed out of the conference room, adrenaline coursing through my veins, I spotted Jason at his desk, engrossed in his own work. "Jason!" I called out, urgency lacing my voice. "You need to see this right now." He looked up, annoyance flickering across his face. "What is it, Emily?" "I'm Busse." I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "It's about the stars, the pulses. They're warning us about a black hole. We're in danger." He scoffed, shaking his head dismissively. "Emily, you're overreacting. Cosmic events happen all the time. It's probably just a natural occurrence." "No. This is serious," I insisted, desperation creeping into my voice. "We need to act, not brush it off. If we don't take this warning seriously, we could lose everything." I could see the conflict in his eyes, but he hesitated, clearly torn between skepticism and the gravity of my words. "Look, I get that you're passionate about this," he finally said, his tone softening slightly. "But without concrete evidence, I can't just accept it as fact." The frustration bubbled within me, but I knew I had to keep my composure. "I'm working on it, Jason. But time is of the essence. We may not have much left." I stood in the observatory, the hum of the equipment a familiar backdrop to my thoughts. The twin stars, Nova and Celestia, shone brightly in the vast expanse of space, but the energy pulses we had been monitoring were becoming increasingly erratic. My team and I had set up a series of telescopes aimed at the binary system, hoping to capture more detailed readings. "Emily, look at this." Max called out, his voice tinged with excitement. I turned to see him hunched over the screen, his fingers flying across the keyboard. The frequency is escalating. It's almost like they're trying to say something. I leaned closer, my heart racing. You think they're communicating with us? It's possible. The pattern is too structured to be random, he replied, glancing up at me with wide eyes. Just then, Jason entered the lab, his expression skeptical as always. What's the fuss about? He asked, crossing his arms. Max thinks the stars are trying to communicate, I said, my voice a mixture of hope and determination. Jason raised an eyebrow, his tone dismissive. Or it could just be a natural fluctuation. We need to stay grounded in reality, Emily. I clenched my jaw, frustration bubbling within me. But what if it's not? This could be our chance to understand something unprecedented. Before he could respond, the lights in the lab flickered, and a sudden power surge sent a jolt through the equipment. Screens began to flash erratically, and alarms blared. No, no, no. I shouted, rushing to stabilize the control panel. Not now. What's happening? Max yelled as he struggled to regain control of the systems. Just hold on. I replied, my fingers racing over the keyboard, but it was too late. The screen went dark, the data we had painstakingly collected lost in an instant. Emily. Max's voice was filled with panic. We need that data. I know. I snapped, my heart sinking at the sight of our hard work evaporating. I could feel Jason's frustrated gaze boring into my back, and it fueled my determination. We have to think. We can't let this setback defeat us. Listen to me, Orion continued, stepping closer. The stars are trying to communicate with you because they know what is coming. You must decode their message before it's too late. I felt my heart race again, but this time with a mix of fear and curiosity. What do you know about the stars? I asked, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions within me. They are alive, Orion said, a spark of intensity lighting their eyes. Nova and Celestia are sentient beings. They have seen the destruction that the black hole will bring, and they are reaching out for help. You must understand their language. Jason shook his head, still unconvinced. How do we know you're telling the truth? You could be a fraud, or worse, a distraction. Orion sighed, clearly frustrated. I don't have time to prove myself to you. The danger is real, and every moment you waste doubting me brings you closer to annihilation. Max stepped forward, his voice quiet but resolute. Emily, what do you think? Should we trust him? I hesitated, caught in a web of uncertainty. Yet deep down I felt a connection to Orion, a thread linking us across time and space. We don't have a choice, I finally said, my voice firm. If there's even a chance that what he says is true, we need to listen. As Orion began to explain the intricacies of the cosmic communication we were deciphering, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were standing on the precipice of something far beyond our understanding. The stars had reached out, and now, a time traveler had arrived to guide us. But the true test was just beginning, and I could feel the weight of the universe pressing down on us, urging us to act before it was too late. The air in the lab was thick with anticipation as I stared at Orion, the enigmatic figure standing before us. His presence felt otherworldly, charged with urgency. You don't understand the magnitude of what's coming, he insisted, his voice steady, eyes piercing through the dim light. I've seen the end of your solar system, and it won't be long before it reaches you. Wait, you've seen the end? Jason interjected, skepticism etched on his face. How can we trust you? You just appeared out of nowhere, claiming to be a time traveler. Orion shifted his gaze from Jason to me, as if gauging our readiness to accept the truth. I have the means to help you, he said, pulling a small metallic device from his pocket. It shimmered under the lab lights, swirling with colors that seemed to pulse rhythmically, much like the signals we had been tracking. This device will amplify your communication with Nova and Celestia. It's tuned to their frequencies. I felt a rush of hope mixed with apprehension. If what you're saying is true, we have to try, I replied, taking the device from him. The moment I held it, a surge of energy coursed through my fingertips, igniting a spark of determination within me. Let's see if this works. As we prepared the equipment, Jason couldn't hide his wariness. Emily, are we really going to trust this guy? We don't even know if he's telling the truth about the black hole. Look at the data we've collected, Jason, I argued, my voice rising slightly. The energy pulses have escalated, and we've deciphered warnings. What if Orion is our only chance to understand what's happening? With a reluctant nod, Jason agreed to proceed. We connected the device to our main console, and I could feel the tension in the room thicken as we initiated the amplification process. The lab filled with a low hum, the air vibrating around us, and for a moment, it felt as if the very fabric of reality was bending to our will. "Here goes nothing," I murmured, sending a pulse towards the stars. The device flickered, and a cascade of lights erupted on the monitor, revealing a complex pattern that I had never seen before. It was a series of coordinates, accompanied by a message that seemed to pulse in sync with the energy waves we had been receiving. "Look!" I shouted, pointing at the screen. "There's something hidden within that signal. Coordinates to a celestial object." Jason leaned closer, his skepticism momentarily forgotten. "Can you decode it?" "I can try," I replied, fingers flying across the keyboard. As I worked, I felt Orion's gaze on me, a mix of encouragement and urgency. If this is accurate, we might be able to pinpoint a location that could help us understand the black hole's trajectory. Just as I began to make progress, a sudden alarm pierced the silence, jolting us back to reality. The warning sirens blared, and red lights flashed ominously. "What's happening?" Jason shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "The gravitational anomaly," I gasped, my heart racing. "It's closer than we thought. The black hole is on a collision course with our system." Orion stepped forward, his expression grave. "You must act quickly. The coordinates, use them. There might be something there that can help you." I felt the weight of responsibility crash down upon me. "We have to move. Jason, gather the data. Max, get the telescopes calibrated to track the anomaly. Orion, what do we do once we reach those coordinates?" "Trust in the stars," he replied, his tone unwavering. "They will guide you, but you must hurry. Time is not on our side." With urgency fueling our actions, I pushed aside my doubts. We had come too far to turn back now. As we scrambled to gather our findings and prepare for the next steps, I couldn't shake the feeling that the universe was shifting beneath us. Every second counted, and the fate of not just our solar system, but perhaps all of humanity, rested on our shoulders. "Let's go," I urged, determination surging through me. "We need to find out what those coordinates lead to before it's too late." The lab was in chaos. Alarms blared, red lights flashed, and the air was heavy with tension as I frantically typed coordinates into the console, my heart racing. "Max, can you stabilize the feed? We need to pinpoint that celestial object." I shouted over the cacophony, sweat trickling down my brow. "I'm on it, Emily." Max responded, his fingers dancing across the keyboard. The tension in the room was palpable. Jason stood by, his expression shifting from skepticism to a hint of concern. "Are you sure about this? What if we're wrong?" he asked, his voice barely above the din. I shot him a glare. "We don't have time for doubts, Jason. The black hole is coming, and if we don't act now, everything we know will be gone." Just then, Max exclaimed, "I've got it. The object is located, right here." He pointed to a blip on the monitor, a faint glimmer in the vastness of space. The realization hit me like a shockwave. A dormant starship. It must have been hidden away for eons. I could hardly contain my excitement. "We can use it. If it's capable of interstellar travel, we might just escape the black hole's grasp." Jason swallowed hard, looking at the screen with newfound urgency. "How do we activate it? We don't even know if it's operational." "Orion's device," I exclaimed, my mind racing. "It amplified our communication with the stars. Maybe it can do the same for the ship." As I rushed to Orion, who stood still in the corner of the lab, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to him than met the eye. "Orion, can you help us power the ship?" I asked, desperation edging my voice. He stepped forward, his eyes glimmering with an otherworldly light. "The ship does not require mere technology. It needs the energy of the stars themselves," he replied cryptically. "What do you mean?" Jason interjected, his skepticism resurfacing. "Are you suggesting we connect it to Nova and Celestia?" Orion nodded. "Yes, but there's something you must understand first." Suddenly, the air grew electric, and I felt a surge of energy coursing through the room. I am not just a traveler from your future, Orion said, his voice echoing around us. I am the embodiment of Nova, one of your twin stars. I have been sent here to guide you. My mind spun with disbelief. You're Nova. I stammered. But how is that possible? The stars are more than mere celestial bodies. We are conscious, sentient beings, bound to the fate of this universe, he explained, his gaze piercing through me. We sensed the impending doom and reached out to you for help. You must harness the ship's power to stabilize the anomaly and avert disaster. The weight of his words settled heavily upon my shoulders. You've been trying to save us all this time? I questioned, my heart swelling with a mix of awe and fear. Yes, he replied softly, but I cannot do it alone. You and your team have the willpower to communicate, to understand, and to act. Jason's expression shifted as he processed Orion's revelation. If we can stabilize the ship with the power of Nova and Celestia, we might just have a chance. Let's do it, I said, my voice steady with determination. Max, prepare the ship for launch. Jason, help me connect Orion's device to the ship's core. As we raced to comply, a tremor shook the lab. The black hole's gravitational pull is increasing. Max shouted, "We need to hurry." With frantic energy, we worked together, the room alive with purpose. I could feel the connection between us, human and star, intertwined by fate. Just as we activated the ship, a brilliant light enveloped us, and the monitors flared with cosmic energy. Now, Orion commanded, channel the energy into the ship. I closed my eyes, visualizing the bond between Nova, Celestia, and us. With a deep breath, I reached out, feeling the harmonics of the stars resonating within me. Together, I shouted, and we unleashed the power, stabilizing the anomaly just as the black hole roared ominously outside. The ship hummed with life as the gravitational forces began to shift, the impending doom dissipating like mist under the sun. We did it! Max exclaimed, his voice tinged with disbelief. I turned to Orion, tears welling in my eyes. Thank you. You saved us. He smiled, a warmth radiating from him. No, Emily. It was you who saved yourselves. The stars will always watch over you. In that moment, I understood. The universe was not just a vast expanse of matter. It was alive, filled with consciousness and unity, reminding us that even in the darkest of times, hope and connection could transcend the boundaries of space and time.